The amazing thing in a way was that Mother's Milk had left them really poised to do what they then did. The amazing thing was that EMI let them go and just let Warner's just, you know, I don't mean to talk business, but it was one of the record label blunders of all time when they had so much credibility in place and they had a really big live following and now a decent radio following after having a couple of, you know, halfway radio hits. And then they just passed that to Warner's, who just took it and ran with it.
If there was anyone able to truly capture the Red Hot Chili Peppers' essence on record, it was renowned producer Rick Rubin, whose services the band enlisted. The first thing he did was change their surroundings. He holed them up in an old mansion in Laurel Canyon, a place reputed to be haunted, and allowed the quartet to communally explore their musical talents and imaginings. Rubin allowed them to unleash their spirit within the usually stodgy atmosphere of a recording room. He inspired them to have fun in the studio again.
The practical things that he did were, first of all, he got them to move into this supposedly haunted house with him throughout the whole making of the album, and made them, sort of to try and encourage them to be more of a unit. The house apparently had a real vibe to it, and maybe input a bit of that into them as well. Secondly, he had them do different things with recording they'd not tried before, like going outside and recording one of the songs. It was recorded outside at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got a girl say she long and tall, sleeps in the kitchen with the beats in the hall. I'm modest in the red hot. Oh, she got to say love me. Yeah. The stars in the sky and looking over Laurel Canyon. It's going to give your vocal and everything a lot more atmosphere than looking at a wall like that,
Well, Rick Rubin is a great producer. His track record is amazing, You look at all from the hip-hop scene, right through everything he's done, right through those Johnny Cash records, which are the best records that Johnny Cash ever made, that is saying something, because Johnny Cash makes amazing records. So it's like everything he's touched has been really, really good. When he teams up the Chili Peppers, it's perfect.
And he really just gave them the time and the place to experiment. If you see the video that accompanied the making of Blood Sugar Sex Magik, which is called Funky Monks, they're banging bits of scrap metal and doing all these strange things.
Okay, you guys played it great, but Flea, split the difference there. Come in a little bit, okay?
The whole thing blossoms. Mother's Milk, great record, gets them onto just about on the edge of the mainstream. They're big now. They get Rick Rubin in, and suddenly you've got like a huge record, multi-million selling record.
The Chili Peppers were, prior to Rick Rubin, very much set up to be a live band. It was very frantic. It was more about energy and notes per minute than it was about songs. Frankly, there weren't really many songs, which is why they had to, they were most famous for a Stevie Wonder cover prior to that. And what Rick Rubin did with them, and what he does with everyone he works with, is he amplified the good bits and cut out the crap bits. And you can see him in action doing that. He made Flea from this frantic, punk funk slap machine into someone who was playing these beautiful melodic lines and playing simple lines, sometimes not playing at all.
We're gonna go. See that? That should be the vibe, like what you just.
Yeah, it is so hard because there's so little time in each thing.
But just keep them really simple. Ba-dum, ba-da-dum.
Okay.
Ba-dum, ba-dum.
Okay.
Top or bottom?
From the top.
And it's something from which they've never looked back. And it's an incredibly different band. They wouldn't have had anything like the commercial success they've had without Rick Rubin. I have no doubt about it.
He did something which I think, is their eureka moment. I honestly do. There were notebooks lying around of Anthony Kiedis' lyrics, and Rubin did a rude and nosy thing and started poking around in them to find out what he'd been writing, and found one particular lyric and was really struck by it, and said to Kiedis, well, have you got a tune for this? What's this? This is great. This is one. And Kiedis is like, it's really kind of emotional and introspective and confessional, and I think they'll just laugh at me. It's just whatever. And he's like, no, this is the one. I think this is great. You know, I'm going to make you come out and sing this to the rest of the band. And you know, he walked out of there and he sang Under the Bridge to the rest of his band, thinking that they might turn around and go, and he said they were like, you know, in tears and saying that's just the most beautiful thing we've ever written.
It's at this point that the Chili Peppers start sort of writing songs, you know, as conventional songs, but the best thing about this is that they still retain that jamminess and that energy. They've still got that, and but we're starting, even as far back as this now, we're starting to get the kind of the sort of Chili Peppers that we'd know later on, that kind of chilled out Chili Peppers. They're starting to appear in places on Blood Sugar Sex Magik, but I think that was the album they needed to make to sort of firm themselves as a major force.
It was just this moment of chance almost, which allowed Kiedis to see that his bandmates, you know, didn't require him to be Mr. Macho, Dick at the front. You know, that they accepted him on different levels to that, and that they were all ready to grow up, and they were all ready to write songs with tunes, and they weren't frightened of everybody putting their lighters up or whatever they were going to do to it.
Blood Sugar Sex Magik really spelled out what the Chili's were all about and stormed into #2 in the Billboard album chart. The album's lead singles, Under the Bridge and Give It Away, became huge hits in their own right. The Chili Peppers were finally a world-beating band. But yet, they were still plagued by drug problems. This time, it was John Frusciante. Still only in his early 20s, the sensitive guitarist had coped with the pressure of endless touring and the showbiz glare that went with being in a band that he had once been a fan of by forging a reliance on heroin. And in 1992, during a Japanese tour, announced his departure from the Chili Peppers.
It was just the ultimate party band. That's the whole thing about it. They were a party band, but sometimes the party gets out of control. You know, you're drinking, you're partying, you're shagging, and it's great, and it's really good fun, but then you're doing a bit of coke, and you're doing a bit of heroin, and you do a bit more heroin, and a bit more heroin, and then suddenly you're just like this ravaged mess.
He started to withdraw from Kiedis and Flea. He started to withdraw from the band, whatever his reasons were, and then, you know, left the band and booked himself into a room at the Chateau Marmont, which is the most legendary, you know, sleaze, bad karma hotel in Sunset Boulevard, and said, and I was going to print saying, I made a decision to become a drug addict. And he sat there for however many years it was, and tried to kill himself with drugs until all his teeth dropped out, until his arms were covered in scars, burns, and until he was in hospital, you know, inches away from dying. And